You feel it before you see it, a change so soft you almost miss it. It's in the way mornings no longer feel crisp, the way food you've eaten for years now sits heavier, longer. It's not pain, not yet, but something is off. You wake more often through the night. Your hands feel tighter by midday. That familiar walk to the mailbox has started to take something from you instead of giving something back. And even when you do all the right things, eat the vegetables, drink the water, go easy on the sugar, the symptoms hum beneath the surface, as if your body is having a quiet conversation you're not invited to. You try not to dwell on it. After all, you're doing fine. You're still here, still moving. But lately there's a kind of static in your skin, like your cells are holding something they can't release. There's a pressure behind your eyes some days. Other times it's a tightness in your chest that fades as soon as you sit down. Not serious enough to panic, just enough to wonder. You think, maybe it's just age. Maybe this is the new normal. But something in you resists that answer. It's not just wear and tear. It's not weakness. What if it's imbalance? What if your body, so loyal and adaptable, has been quietly buffering stress, food, medication, the environment until now? Until its internal scales tipped just enough to start whispering instead of shouting. And what if the solution isn't another prescription or another round of trial and error eating? What if the beginning of relief is already sitting in your kitchen? A common white powder with uncommon power. Used the right way, it might not just ease discomfort, it might help your body find its way back to center. And yet, the signals persist. They're not loud, but they're steady. Strange little echoes in the body you've known your whole life. You eat a light breakfast and still feel like you need to lie down. A bowl of oatmeal, maybe some fruit, and by mid-morning your limbs are heavy, your mind dull around the edges. You wonder if it's your sleep or something you forgot to take, or maybe just the weather, but the explanation never quite fits. Then lunch comes, and even the healthiest meals leave you bloated, tight, or strangely chilled from the inside. You've heard people blame gluten, carbs, nightshades, so many culprits, but none feel like the answer. Especially not when you've already changed so much. There's a pattern here, but it hides in plain sight. You might notice your joints swell slightly by afternoon, fingers that don't close all the way, ankles that press against your socks. You haven't injured yourself, you haven't overdone it, but your body feels as though it's reacting to something invisible. Other times you feel your heart beating just a little harder after climbing stairs, not racing, just present, thudding, reminding you it's working, maybe too hard. These aren't emergencies, they're mysteries, too subtle to treat, too real to ignore. And even when you mention them to a friend, a doctor, your own reflection, the answers come back vague. Normal aging, they say. Stay active, watch your salt, keep hydrating. You nod, because what else can you do? But deep down, you feel the mismatch. Your symptoms don't match your efforts. Your body is speaking a language that no one around you seems to understand. And somewhere beneath it all, you sense it's not that you're doing something wrong. It's that something inside has quietly changed, and it's asking for a different kind of support. Because what if it isn't just wear and tear, but chemistry out of rhythm? A delicate balance, slightly tipped, like a scale that no longer resets overnight. That would explain why your clean eating hasn't shifted the fog. Why water doesn't always hydrate the way it should. Why you can feel both puffy and depleted at the same time. It's not a lack of discipline, it's not just aging. It's the quiet accumulation of acid, the slow slide of your body's pH drifting away from neutral. Not in a catastrophic way, but in the kind that touches everything: digestion, energy, sleep, joints, clarity. Nobody talks about it because it's not flashy. pH sounds like a high school science term, not a living, breathing experience. But your body knows. It feels the difference between balance and burden. And as you get older, your natural ability to buffer that acidity weakens. Your kidneys don't neutralize as easily. Your bones and muscles lend their minerals to help. Your tissues, especially in the gut, begin to show the wear. Not as disease necessarily, but as friction, as resistance, as those unexplained symptoms that circle you like fog you can't push through. And the trouble is, this kind of acidity isn't always linked to what you eat. It's also the result of stress, medications, pollution, inflammation, even grief. The world presses in, and your internal chemistry tries to hold its line. But over time, the buffers get thin. And when they do, your body starts signaling, not with sirens but with whispers, that drained feeling after meals, the strange tightness around your ribs, the creeping tension in your back. Not random, not meaningless, just chemistry asking for support, not another supplement, but a small, familiar ingredient your body still recognizes, if you know when and how to offer it. It begins there more often than not, beneath the ribcage, behind the meals, in the dark churn of your gut, where food meets chemistry and chemistry meets time. You don't always feel it as pain. Sometimes it's just pressure after eating, or that slow roll of gas that doesn't move no matter how you sit. Other times, it's a fullness that creeps upward, pressing at your diaphragm, stealing your breath in the smallest, strangest way. You haven't overeaten, you haven't done anything wrong, but something inside you feels stuck, swollen, heavy, like a storm building in the silence of your own system. Your gut is more than a digestive machine. It's a chemical command center, and as you age, the signals change. Your stomach acid isn't what it used to be. It weakens, even when you still feel the burn. That's the paradox. It's not always too much acid, but too little. Too weak to break down food properly. Too diluted to tell the next organs it's time to go to work. So things linger. Food ferments, gas forms, nutrients slip by undigested, and what should have been fuel becomes friction. In that slow fermentation, acid rises, not from strength but from confusion. The esophagus burns, the bile backs up, you burp more, you feel pressure even when your plate was modest. And through it all, your gut microbiome, the tiny world within, gets disrupted. Not by one bad meal, but by a pattern your body's been quietly adapting to for years. This is where baking soda steps in, not as a cure-all, but as a gentle shift, a signal, a way to cool the storm without shutting the whole system down. Used at the right time in the right dose, it can help restore rhythm where there's only been noise. And as that inner storm simmers on, something else settles in, something you've started to live with because you think you have to. The ache, the stiffness, the pain that doesn't scream but never leaves. It's in your hands when you try to twist the jar lid, in your knees when you stand too long, in your back when you shift in bed and the movement pulls something tight that shouldn't be. You don't remember when it started. You only know it's been there long enough to feel like part of you now, but it isn't. It's not who you are. It's what your body is holding. Inflammation doesn't always arrive in a blaze. Sometimes it's low and slow, like coals instead of flames. And often, it's driven by the same silent acidity you've been buffering without knowing it. Because when your pH skews too low, your body has to neutralize it with something. Often that something comes from your bones, your joints, your muscles, little withdrawals from your mineral reserves, little chemical trades just to keep the balance from tipping further. It works until it doesn't, until your tissues start to ache from what they've lost, until motion becomes resistance, until your limbs feel older than you know they are. And you may stretch, take a walk, even pop an anti-inflammatory from time to time, but the discomfort always returns. That's because the problem isn't always mechanical. It's chemical. It's internal tension, masked as aging. And what your body may need isn't more pushing, but gentler balance. A small dose of alkalinity, not to replace movement or medicine, but to support the very tissues that carry you. A quiet intervention, a pause, a sip. Not to numb the pain, but to soften the reason it lingers. And underneath the soreness, beneath the tight joints and heavy meals, lives something even more persistent. The tiredness, the kind that doesn't lift after a good night's sleep, the kind that settles behind your eyes before lunch. It's not laziness, it's not depression, it's not something wrong with your mindset or motivation. It's a kind of fatigue that feels chemical, because it is. You've felt it, that low hum in your bones, the way your body moves like it's wading through thicker air, the way even small tasks feel heavier than they should. You've blamed it on age, medications, stress, and maybe those all play a part. But there's another piece, one that's easy to overlook. Your body may be spending its energy not on living, but on buffering. Because every time acidity rises, your system scrambles to neutralize it. It calls on reserves of calcium, magnesium, potassium, borrowed from your bones, your muscles, your cells, and every chemical adjustment takes effort. It's a hidden cost paid in fatigue. You're not doing less. Your body is just working harder to keep the peace. So you sip your water, eat your clean meals, follow the advice, and still wonder why you feel drained. Not flat out exhausted maybe, but subtly uncharged, like your battery won't top off no matter how long it rests. That's not you giving up. That's your system running in defense mode. And sometimes that defense needs reinforcement, not another stimulant, not another nap, but a shift toward alkalinity, just enough to tell your body, you're safe, you can stop fighting now. That's what a simple glass of baking soda water can offer, Not energy, but relief from what's been quietly draining it. A ceasefire your cells have been waiting for. So you drink more water. You sip steadily throughout the day. You carry a bottle to the kitchen, to the porch, to bed. And still, something feels missing. Your mouth is dry before noon. Your eyes feel tight. Your skin, though cared for, doesn't bounce back the way it used to. And deeper still, there's a kind of inner dryness, a thirst you can't quite quench. It's frustrating because you're doing everything right. But the truth is, hydration isn't just about how much you drink. It's about whether your cells are willing to receive it. When your body tips toward acidity, your cellular environment shifts. The fluid outside your cells becomes less welcoming, less conductive. Think of it like trying to pour water into a sponge that's already been hardened by time and stress. The water runs off. It doesn't sink in. That's how it can feel inside you too. The minerals that help regulate fluid flow, sodium, potassium, bicarbonate, start to fall out of balance. And suddenly, your body's thirst isn't just for water, it's for better chemistry. That's where a pinch of baking soda begins to matter. Not because it hydrates you directly, but because it changes the environment. A slightly more alkaline bloodstream supports better electrolyte activity. It helps cells draw in water more effectively. It eases that stuck feeling, the bloating, the swelling, the fog. You're not just trying to drink more. You're trying to help your body use what you already give it. And when the chemistry shifts even slightly, that's when you notice the difference. Your lips stay moist longer, your muscles cramp less, you feel steadier, clearer, not from a magic fix, but from a quiet alignment you didn't know you could restore, a glass that finally gives back. And still, there's that feeling after meals, the weight, not fullness, not satisfaction, something denser. You chew slowly, eat modestly, choose foods that once felt nourishing, and yet within minutes, your body feels burdened. Your stomach presses outward. Your chest tightens like it's holding your breath for you. You may not even finish your plate anymore, not because you're full, but because you're already uncomfortable. It's as though digestion itself has become too much work, and deep down, it doesn't make sense. Because what used to feel good now feels like a task. This isn't weakness, it's chemistry again. As you age, the stomach becomes less acidic, even when the symptoms look like excess. Low acid means food breaks down slower, proteins sit longer, fats don't move, enzymes arrive too late, if they arrive at all, so meals linger, they ferment, they stretch the gut and push upward toward the chest, triggering discomfort, bloating, even shallow breathing. And worst of all, you're left feeling like you did something wrong. Like food is the enemy now, but food isn't the problem. It's the timing, the signaling, the lost rhythm. And baking soda, used with care, doesn't just mask symptoms, it can reset the process. Taken before meals, it's not helpful. It can actually interfere. But when used away from food, it acts like a gentle nudge. It calms the acid spikes that rise in confusion. It softens the environment so your gut can move things forward. Not forcefully, but smoothly, as if your body recognizes what it was always meant to do. That heaviness after eating isn't failure, it's stalled rhythm. And in the right moment, something as small as a half teaspoon in water can whisper to your body, "Let go now." And it listens. And after the meals, the discomfort, the long hours of doing your best to feel better, you lie down hoping for rest. But rest doesn't come the way it used to. You fall asleep maybe, but not deeply, not cleanly. You wake more often than you used to, sometimes for no reason at all. Other nights you toss, legs twitching or hips aching. Your pillow holds your head but not your mind. And in the morning, though you slept, you don't feel restored. It's as if your body turned off the lights but left the machines running. This kind of restless sleep is more than inconvenience. It's a sign of inner tension, chemical and physical. Because when your pH dips toward acidity, cortisol can rise, especially at night. The stress hormone meant to keep you alert becomes overactive, stealing the deep stages of sleep when your body does its real repair. At the same time, muscle tissues under mild acidosis tend to cramp, spasm, or tighten, creating subtle discomfort that stirs you before you're fully awake. You don't always remember it, but your nervous system does. It never quite powers down. And here again, baking soda plays a quiet role, not as a sleep aid, but as a soft reset button. When taken in the early evening, hours before bed, it helps buffer those cortisol surges. It helps relax overworked muscles from the inside out, not sedating you, but clearing the static that keeps you from sinking fully into rest. That's the difference. You're not seeking unconsciousness, you're seeking restoration. And sometimes that begins not with a stronger sleep supplement, but with a gentler balance, one your cells can recognize and respond to. Sleep is healing. But first, the body has to feel safe enough to let go. And when the body can't find rest, the heart begins to carry what the muscles cannot. It builds slowly, this emotional weight. You don't name it right away. At first, it's just a sigh that lingers a little too long. A quiet frustration when your energy runs out halfway through the morning. Then it's the heaviness of needing help for things you once did without thinking. Not because you're incapable, but because your body, despite all your efforts, isn't cooperating, and it wears on you in a way you rarely say aloud. You wonder if others notice, the way you wince slightly getting out of a chair, the way your smile softens into stillness when the conversation turns to health. It's not self-pity, it's not fear, it's more like quiet grief, a slow realization that something has shifted inside you and no one else seems to see it. You've followed the advice, you've said yes to the pills, the appointments, the food swaps, and still, the symptoms linger like background noise. And what's worse, everyone seems to think you're fine. This is where the weariness deepens, not in the body, but in the trust. Trust in your instincts, trust in your own ability to know what's really going on. But here's the thing, your body hasn't betrayed you. It's been trying to adapt, trying to protect. Even its discomfort is a kind of message, one that makes more sense than it seems. And if you feel tired, uncertain, unseen, you're not alone. You're not imagining it. There are reasons behind the struggle, and sometimes recognizing that is the first act of healing. Not a cure, not a fix, but a shift. A soft, powerful reminder that your experience has always mattered, and that it's still leading you somewhere true. And so you sit there, sometimes across from someone in a white coat, someone kind and credentialed, someone who truly wants to help, but who can only see what the chart shows. Your numbers are stable. Your weight is reasonable. Your medications are working more or less. And yet you try to explain it. That deep cellular weariness, the way your gut clenches for no reason, the strange flutter in your chest that comes and goes. You speak in sensations, they respond in metrics, and neither of you are wrong. You're just living in different languages. Doctors mean well, they work hard, they carry the weight of many people's fears, but they don't wake up inside your body. They don't carry your stiffness into the shower or your brain fog into the kitchen. They don't feel the invisible line you walk between functioning and faking it. You do. And maybe you've stopped bringing things up, stopped asking the same questions, not because you've given up, but because you've started listening inward instead. That's not rebellion, that's wisdom. And you're not trying to reject care, you're trying to add to it, to supplement the system with something your own experience has been pointing to all along. You know when something feels off, even if the tests don't say so. You know when a glass of water with a pinch of something soothing settles you more than anything else has in weeks. That knowing, that deep intuitive trust in your body's responses is not a threat to medicine, it's a companion. And sometimes the greatest act of healing is not waiting for permission to feel better. It's allowing yourself to respond to what your body's been asking for all along, even if no one else has named it yet. And when you start to listen like that, really listen, you begin to hear others doing the same. Not in loud testimonials or dramatic before and afters, but in the soft, almost embarrassed way someone says, "I don't know, but something's different." Like the man who tried baking soda water at night and realized 2 weeks later that he wasn't waking up stiff. He didn't tell anyone right away. He wasn't sure it would last, but it did. Or the woman who stopped feeling bloated after lunch, not because she changed her meals, but because she changed when she supported her body's balance. Just a glass in the morning, and the weight in her gut stopped pressing so hard. There's the caregiver who gave her mother a small, measured dose every other evening. Nothing else changed. But within a month, her mother was walking more easily, smiling more often, falling asleep faster. Or the retired nurse who admitted she'd rolled her eyes at the idea until she tried it herself and felt her heartburn ease for the first time in a year without reaching for a bottle. These aren't miracles, they're moments. Quiet shifts that began not with certainty, but with curiosity. And maybe the most telling part is this. Not one of them claimed it fixed everything. They didn't abandon their medications. They didn't swear off doctors. They just felt better. And in feeling better, they trusted themselves more. They paid attention, they adjusted, and the changes stuck. Not because they forced them, but because their bodies finally had room to respond. That's all this is. Not a cure, not a promise, just a return to balance. One thoughtful choice at a time, one quiet result at a time, like a whisper that keeps getting clearer the more you listen. Because once you hear those quiet results, those moments that begin to stack and hold, you start to wonder if you should try it too. but you want to do it right, carefully, with respect for your body's needs and your doctor's guidance. And that's wise. Baking soda isn't new, it isn't flashy, but it is powerful in the right context, and it deserves to be used with care. It begins with simplicity, just half a teaspoon of baking soda dissolved in a full glass of water, about 4 to 6 ounces, depending on what feels right for you. Stir gently, let it fully dissolve. Then sip slowly on an empty stomach. Not with meals, not right after eating. The goal isn't to block digestion, it's to support your system when it's not already working overtime. Mid-morning between breakfast and lunch is often ideal. Or early evening, hours before bed, when your body is winding down but your chemistry may still be on edge. And never more than twice a day. Your body isn't asking for more, it's asking for rhythm. If you're on medications, especially for high blood pressure, kidney conditions, or sodium-sensitive issues, this isn't something to start without checking in first. And even if you're in good health, take breaks. A few weeks on, a few days off. Your system should never rely on any one input. This is about support, not dependence. You're not fixing anything. You're giving your body a clearer space to fix itself. That's the beauty of it. The simplicity. It's not dramatic, but it is direct. And when used respectfully, consistently, thoughtfully, it becomes something more than a household item. It becomes part of your rhythm, a gesture of listening, of remembering that sometimes small things, done gently, have the power to shift everything. And as you sit with all of it, the heaviness, the stillness, the gentle shift of chemistry, you begin to realize something quietly profound. Maybe it was never just about age. Maybe what you've been feeling isn't a slow decline, but a call for balance that no one ever told you to listen for. That stubborn bloating after every meal, that aching in the knees that crept in after retirement, that thick, slow tiredness that lingers even on peaceful days. These weren't signs of failure, they were signals. Consistent, patient signals asking for a kind of help that doesn't come in a bottle or a long prescription list. You've been told to accept it, that this is just how the body changes, that certain discomforts are part of getting older. And yes, the body does change, but not all struggle is inevitable. Not all fatigue is natural. Some of it is chemistry, off by just enough to make everything feel heavier than it has to. And when you hear that, something softens, because maybe you haven't been doing anything wrong. Maybe your body isn't broken. Maybe it's just been speaking in a language you weren't taught to understand. And in this new understanding, a door opens. A new kind of care, less about control, more about curiosity, less about managing symptoms, more about restoring rhythm. And maybe, just maybe, that small pinch of baking soda in water isn't just a home remedy. It's a turning point, a shift from resignation to recognition, from coping to listening. You don't need a miracle. You don't need to start over. You just need to meet your body where it is and offer it what it's quietly needed all along. So you stand in your kitchen one morning, the light just beginning to stretch across the counter. You fill a glass, not to fix, not to fight, but to begin again. You open the box, pinch the powder, and stir. No promises, no grand expectations, just one quiet choice in a world that's asked so much of you already. This is what healing can look like. Not dramatic, not loud, but intentional. A moment of stillness. A pause between all the noise where your body and your instincts finally meet. Because the truth is, you've never needed a revolution. You've needed a rhythm, something your body could count on, gentle, reliable, grounding. And maybe this glass becomes part of that. Not the whole answer, but a beginning, a shift, a new kind of trust. Not in fads, not in fear, but in your own experience. You've lived long enough to know what feels real. You've been through enough to know the difference between hype and truth. And when your body responds, when your gut softens, when your breath deepens, when your energy returns in ways too subtle to measure but too powerful to ignore, you'll know. You won't need anyone's validation. You won't need charts or commentary. You'll just feel better, not perfect, not pain-free, but more you. And maybe you share it, or maybe you keep it close, like a secret between you and your cells. Either way, it belongs to you. This quiet victory, this moment where you chose not to accept discomfort as your default, where you chose to question what aging was supposed to feel like, where you offered your body something it could recognize, receive, and use, not because someone told you to, but because you were ready to listen. And that's how change begins, not in force, but in alignment, not in panic, but in permission, a glass, a breath, a pause. Over time, those small choices add up. They become the new baseline, the new normal. You may not feel it overnight, But one day you'll walk across the room and realize you didn't wince. You'll sit through a meal and realize you didn't swell. You'll sleep through the night and wake up thinking, not of symptoms, but of what you'd like to do today. And that is your next quiet victory.